And so now we go offshore racing, 100 miles north of Stockholm in Sweden. The Class 2 World Championships were held here in 1993. These powerful offshore racing boats putting on a spectacular demonstration of racing skill. The Argentinians were back, but not this time with Daniel Scioli. Rule changes meant that he would not be competing in the World Championships and would be replaced by Jorge Kern and Thomas Maffei. One of the world's most famous faces in offshore racing, Michael Froder, on his home water here in Sweden.
Yes, he has rather good chances. Has a boat which is 2 feet longer than ours, a little bit heavier, which might be good today. And he has also experience in running the boat in rough conditions, which I don't have, because this is just the third race we using this boat. So.
Last year in the European Championship, you had some problems with the boat. Would you like to tell me about that?
Yes, last year in the European, we were in the lead with about 30 seconds, and we split a hole on one of the pontoons, so a lot of water came into the boat, so we had to stop.
Stefan Roth and Kjell Fredlund from the local teams, and from America, Charles Burnett III with his co-driver, Briton Peter Dredge.
I saw this boat here last year. A French team used it.
That's right.
And you've taken over it. Have you modified it?
We have actually. Peter insisted that I start off with 2 engines before I can have 3. So we drop 1 engine off the back. As you see, we only have 2 right now.
Can you explain that a bit further?
Well, Los Locos is the madman, and 100 miles an hour for him is enough at the moment.
Peter Dredge, highly experienced from the world of Class 1, finding that Class 2 is just as competitive. And so out to the start of the first heat. 3 races would make up this World Championship event here in Sweden. A great mixture of boat designs would compete. Number 330, Glenn Carlsen and Hans Hagberg, would fail to finish in any of the 3 heats. An unusual mixture of designs would see Lennart Bergstrom and Ove Wunderson in the Luscat 27, powered by 2 2.7 Mercury engines. They would take 3rd place in the first heat, but be overwhelmed in the 2nd and 3rd. And so to the start of the race, the first race in this 3-round World Championship. Into the lead, M12, Lennart Bergstrom and Ove Wunderson. Their 27-foot boat not ideally suited to these very rough waters and the racing conditions they would face shortly, and certainly not suited to the challenge that would come from the Castrol-sponsored boat of Michael Froder. He literally blitzed straight through the middle of the start pack. The distinctive bright red boat heralding the lead and signalling the direction for the race. The crowd loved it. Their home driver was in the lead. In the second race, he did exactly the same thing. M4 with Froder on board would dominate the first 2 heats, giving him 400 points in each. M62 would come 2nd in the first heat and 3rd in the second heat. It was not such a happy story for Cultured Vulture, M2, with the American Charles Burnett III on board. They would fail to finish in the first heat and the second heat. But there were no mistakes for Michael Froder. He took the checkered flag with his teammate Ole Sjöblom. So 2 heats out of the World Championship, 800 points to their name. The title, however, was by no means settled. There was one more race to go in this 3-part World Championship.
It has been racing here for about 32 years, and it's a good place to be in. It's not so big racing here as it is, let's say, in Guernsey or England, but it's still a good place in Scandinavia.
The points after 2 heats of the Class 2 World Championships saw Michael Froder with 800 points, ahead of Jorge Kern and Stefan Roth, way behind with 300. There was 1 heat left to go. Michael Froder could take the title, but everything could be lost to the highly experienced Argentinian team standing in 2nd place in the points at this stage in the World Championships. The rumours had got around that this was going to be a big battle. The crowds came down to the shoreline to see the final rounds of the World Championship settled here in Sweden. The skater hull of Peter Dredge and Charles Burnett III, which had failed to finish in the first two races, was now performing superbly well. And it wasn't long before they came up alongside Michael Froder, who had in fact managed to pass Stefan Roth, but was struggling in the rough waters. Not so for this boat. Beautifully trimmed, superb speed, running on the open sea, M2 Cultured Vulture moved into the lead. The monohull M114, driven by Anders Wagberg, was also competing well and better suited to the rough seas. The Argentinians were struggling in the Roberti hull, but they kept on the power because just ahead of them they could see the struggling man on his home waters, Michael Froder. Slowed almost to a stop, and he could see the Argentinians catching up. If the Argentine team moved into first place, then Michael Froder had to finish in third. The task looked almost impossible, and M62 passed M4. The Castrol team was struggling. Meanwhile, out in front, Peter Dredge and Charles Burnett III were continuing to lead the race very comfortably. Their skater hull so much better suited to these difficult waters. And it's clear, had they not suffered mechanical failure in the first two events, they would be likely world champions for 1993. Back on the last lap, Burnett and Dredge up towards the checkered flag to win this final heat. But they stood no chance in the World Championships. The Argentinians came in second place, and all they could do was wait. Inevitably, Michael Froder made it in from the rough seas to come in third place and secure only just enough points to take the World Championship title. A superb effort by the Froder Castrol team, the Swede winning on his home waters. With 3 270 horsepower Mercury engines, he'd ensured another world title to add to the ever-growing list. Froder and his teammate Ole Sjöblom congratulate also Charles Burnett and Peter Dredge, the winners of the final heat. But it's Froder that takes the World Championship title, Jorger Kern in second, Stefan Roth in third, and then Charles Burnett in fourth place, Anders Wagberg in fifth, and Lennart Bergerstrom in sixth.